The story begins with Sullivan Giles as the original owner of Geauga Lake. He developed this property as sort of a leisure park for people who were taking the local train that went by his property, and they wanted to have a place where people could relax, spend family time together as a family, as well as eat at the picnic room Sullivan Giles had developed at his sort of leisure park. Future additions to Geauga Lake include a ballroom, roller rink, and racetrack. As well as these additions, it's also caused a name change in the park, from Giles Pond now to being named to Geauga Lake Park. With this being the start of Geauga Lake becoming an amusement park, one attraction the park saw was during the time of its rebranding in 1887 included the park hosting baseball games. It only lasted a year. Geauga Lake was growing and expanding with the new addition of Steam Park Carousel in 1888. That being said, the park saw the addition of a wooden roller coaster in 1888 called the Raging Wolf Bob's. This was until another original wooden roller coaster was added to the park, which we'll talk about later in the documentary in 1925, called the Big Dipper, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But with that being said, learning some cool facts about the attractions and the development of Geauga Lake becoming the star of an amusement park, we'll learn more on how this park suffered through major operating issues that the park faced, as well as changes in ownership and more that caused this park to have a very lengthy but interesting history. Alright, moving on to the timeline. 1930, the park saw the addition of a ballroom, a roller rink, and a photo gallery. 10 years later, in 1940, a major fire destroyed the ballroom and other park buildings. Fast forward and moving on to 1965, where the park had its first change in ownership with Funtime Inc. This was a company owned by 4 ex-Cedar Point employees. You heard that correct. 4 former Cedar Point employees came through and developed their own company that caused the first change in ownership of Geauga Lake. Alright, now here's the fun part, the attractions of Geauga Lake. These include 3 roller coasters. The first roller coaster is developed by Bolliger and Mabillard, B&M for short. That being said, this specific coaster was a flying coaster model, similar to the one at Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. The second attraction, which was a boomerang coaster developed by Vekoma. This coaster, specifically, it was unique about it took riders once forward and once backward throughout the layout. You got to ride the ride 2 times. That being said, let's get into the third coaster, the worst one of all. However, for most people I talked to, this was a Vekoma SOC. This type of coaster is bad for the park because people who I found out rode it, people I talked to especially about this, have said that what's wrong with this coaster is involved a lot of headbanging. Very uncomfortable. I'm sure they got lots of guest services complaints from guests when this coaster was in operation. Geauga Lake was expanding one of the biggest parks. By this time, in 1995, Premier Parks, going on to its Six Flags Corporation, showed interest in buying the park. Premier Parks wanted to expand this park, add new attractions and roller coasters, and give it the love and attention it needs to become one of the biggest Premier parks in the Premier Parks' chain of amusement parks.
There once was a town that worked so hard, there was just no time for play. But that all changed on this one particular day. There's a time for work, and there's a time for play. Six Flags. It's playtime.
By this time, Hersheypark is developing and redoing adding new attractions to now bought Geauga Lake. New park across the lake, SeaWorld, Ohio, opened up across the lake in 1970. These two parks create a non-competition agreement, which means that SeaWorld won't develop roller coasters, and her parks, now Six Flags, won't have any marine animals such as killer whales in their parks. Six Flags is doing great. They combined both parks in one, meaning that SeaWorld, Ohio, as well as formerly called Geauga Lake, now called Six Flags World of Adventures, both parks combined to be one big amusement theme park. That being said, this happy time for Six Flags wouldn't last very long. And that being said, this is because the park took a downhill turn. In 2001 season, the park saw 2 million visitors. That was until the September 11 terrorist attacks changed the amount of attendance the park would see in the future. Things are not looking good for the Six Flags Park World of Adventure. That being said, the 2003 season, Six Flags sold the park to Cedar, who approximately bought the park for $145 million. Fun fact, Six Flags only operated the park and owned it for 3 years, so around 2000 season to 2003 season. That being said, continuing on, now learned that Cedar is the new owner of the park. First thing they did was a dramatic change. Got rid of the SeaWorld Ohio park across the lake and developed to a water park, Soak City. It's called Wild Park Kingdom, my mistake. That being said, continuing on, Cedar was drastically changing the park and getting new owners that are changing this once beloved park. Alright, now we're the specific part of the documentary. I learned about another attraction besides the main roller coasters I mentioned earlier in the documentary. This specific popular attraction was called Dr. Hyde's Nasty Fall. This attraction was important because when Cedar bought the park from Six Flags ownership previously, again for $145 million approximately, things are not looking good again for the park now because when Cedar decided to shut down this drop-down attraction, what happened to it was dismantled, but instead of being sent to a scrapyard, any sort of electrical and ride components were sent to Cedar Point, where they have a summer attraction called Demon Drop. Cedar Fair was turning Geauga Lake Park into a former show itself. Then, like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Hyde's Nasty Fall, as well as in the documentary as well, was 4 roller coasters operating the park. Again, Cedar Fair is moving attractions like Dr. Hyde's Nasty Fall out of the park and different things happening to it. That being said, one of these roller coasters I mentioned earlier in the documentary, the one made by B&M, Beauregard Mabler for short, essentially was taken out of the park. Now this attraction has a very interesting history. This attraction, which was moved out of Geauga Lake, was sent to Kings Island, Ohio's sister park owned by Cedar Fair. That being said, this park, Kings Island, repurposed the ride and called it Firehawk. This flying coaster originated from Geauga Lake, again originally called X-Flight, it was now again at Kings Island for this point in time, until it closed around the 2016-2017 season. Alright, now things at Geauga Lake were getting a little worse than just the removing rides. Cedar Fair, unfortunately around close to the 2007 season, announced the park would be permanently closed forever. Not good. Alright, with this sad news and everything that's going on with Geauga Lake and the Cedar Fair officially shutting down the park during the 2007 season, any remaining rides, such as the few other coasters mentioned in this video, as well as other attractions, splat rides, etc., have moved to other Cedar Fair parks or sold to other parks across the United States. Now, the story doesn't end here for Geauga Lake. That is because I'm going to explain to you now what there happened to do with the old amusement park. Alright, so the history of Geauga Lake isn't a sad one, because looking at this repurposed land area map by Industrial Commercial Properties LLC, the people that will be developing this area, there are some changes made to the Geauga Lake property. The old space that used to be a parking lot for the park, again, now is a Menards, which is an everything store where they have not only stuff like Home Depot has, but they sell like movies and food and pet supplies and seasonal stuff. That being said, the last time I looked at this image, probably like 4 months ago, it was said a proposed grocery store. That being said, officially the name of this grocery store, it's Meijer, a popular grocery store chain, and similar to Walmart. People call it an upscale Walmart, but I'm getting ahead of myself and running off. That being said, again about Meijer, they sell toys and groceries and Christmas decor and Christmas, a bunch of other fun items. That being said, they also list in the SeaWorld side of the park in this image you see across the lake. What I mentioned about future development and things going on in this documentary. You notice that you see Aurora, the city of Aurora is about that part of SeaWorld, Ohio, was originally called during that time. Again, was mentioned as a water park, as I mentioned, it was owned by Cedar at that time. That water park space is going to be a City of Aurora Park, which means that I looked at the article by the City of Aurora. They're planning to repurpose that water park space again, Wild Water Kingdom. We use parts regularly, the wave pool, and other sort of space areas, again, that property to be like a community park as well as possibly a restaurant, a bunch of other fun stuff. That being said, with those two updates mentioned, looking at this picture, also notice that there is a small housing development on the bottom side of the park. There used to be some attractions and pathways and such things. Again, that's independent housing development, selling homes for new families. And you see above the park, the rest of the park and the main attractions were restaurants, shops, and whatever. It's still up for sale with no yet development. I believe originally that section was supposed to be another housing development, but I think they've been cutting down how many housing developments they can have in the area, especially if you want to add more like retail or like entertainment, live entertainment sort of businesses or whatever. Those spaces instead. But you see the other spaces are still listed in that picture, who yet to be determined by whoever. And hopefully the future is great for this park as well as the space gets used properly, and they do a good job remembering the park attractions, the people that love this park. That being said, thank you for joining my documentary. You'll see the end credit as well as a possible hint toward a new video coming soon. That being said, this is Andrew created the documentary again from scratch. My hard work. I'm hoping you enjoyed it. That being said, don't forget to face your fears and ride on.